Many gardeners see summer as the most difficult part of the growing season. As temperatures climb, the soil dries out, plants become stressed, and harvests often begin to slow just when you'd expect them to be at their best. But not every vegetable reacts that way. Some crops actually welcome the heat. The hotter it gets, the better they grow. These perennial vegetables have naturally adapted to blazing sunshine, dry conditions, and long summers. Once established, they require very little attention while returning year after year with dependable harvests. They're the dependable crops experienced gardeners rely on when other vegetables begin to struggle. In today's guide, we'll introduce 10 heat-loving perennial vegetables that thrive in warm climates, tolerate neglect, and reward you with reliable harvests season after season. 1. Okra. When it comes to vegetables that truly enjoy hot weather, few can compete with okra. While many garden plants slow their growth during the hottest weeks of summer, okra seems to do exactly the opposite. High temperatures fuel its development, helping it grow taller, stronger, and more productive as the season progresses. Once established, young seedlings quickly develop into impressive plants with thick stems and broad leaves that eagerly absorb the summer sunshine. Many first-time gardeners are amazed by how rapidly okra grows. A small seedling can soon become one of the tallest vegetables in the garden. Then the real reward begins. The first pods appear gradually, but once the plant reaches full maturity, production increases dramatically. During periods of intense heat, fresh pods seem to develop almost every day, providing an ongoing harvest throughout the season. That's one of the reasons gardeners love growing okra. Harvesting isn't something you do once. It's something you enjoy again and again. Regular picking encourages the plant to continue producing new pods, so the more frequently you harvest, the more generous the plant becomes. For the best flavor and texture, pods should be picked while they're still young and tender. Waiting too long allows them to become fibrous and tough, but frequent harvesting keeps both quality and productivity high. Okra is also remarkably drought-tolerant. Its deep root system searches for moisture well below the soil surface, allowing the plant to remain productive even when rainfall becomes scarce. It performs well in ordinary garden soil and rarely demands heavy fertilizing or complicated care. Beyond producing food, okra also adds height and structure to the vegetable garden. Its upright growth creates an attractive backdrop while providing light afternoon shade for nearby plants during the hottest days of summer. Strong, dependable, and perfectly adapted to warm climates, okra transforms extreme summer heat into one of its greatest advantages. 2. Sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes approach gardening differently from most vegetables. Instead of merely surviving difficult conditions, they actually benefit from them. Hot weather, bright sunshine, and dry summers create exactly the environment these vigorous plants prefer. Once planted into warm soil, sweet potatoes establish quickly and begin sending long, trailing vines across the garden. As temperatures continue rising, those vines spread rapidly until they form a thick blanket of lush green foliage. That leafy cover does much more than look attractive. It naturally shades the soil, helping retain moisture, suppress unwanted weeds, and keep the ground cooler during the hottest months of the year. In many ways, sweet potatoes create their own protective growing environment. While all this leafy growth is happening above ground, something equally impressive is taking place below the surface. Hidden beneath the vines, large storage roots slowly develop, collecting energy throughout the season with very little assistance from the gardener. This creates a wonderfully efficient growing system. The vines protect the soil, the roots store the harvest, and the entire plant continues working with surprisingly little maintenance. Sweet potatoes are also exceptionally adaptable. They perform well in less fertile soils and tolerate dry conditions much better than many traditional vegetable crops. Their extensive root systems help them continue growing even when water becomes limited. After establishment, they require very little attention beyond occasional watering during prolonged drought. Harvest time is always exciting. After months of unseen growth, lifting the vines and digging into the soil often reveals an impressive collection of sweet potatoes waiting beneath the surface. It's a perfect reminder that some of the garden's greatest rewards develop quietly where no one can see them. For gardeners looking for dependable harvests, excellent drought tolerance, and low-maintenance productivity, sweet potatoes are an outstanding choice. 3. Jerusalem artichoke. Jerusalem artichoke, also known as sunchoke, is one of the easiest perennial food crops you can grow. Plant it once, and with very little effort, it continues returning year after year while producing generous harvests beneath the soil. At first glance, many people mistake it for an ornamental flower rather than a vegetable. Its tall stems can tower above surrounding plants, and by late summer they're crowned with cheerful yellow blossoms that resemble small sunflowers, bringing beauty as well as productivity to the garden. Above ground, the plant looks elegant. Below ground, it's remarkably productive. As the season progresses, clusters of crisp, nutritious tubers quietly develop beneath the soil without requiring complicated care or constant maintenance. Then harvest day arrives. As you begin digging, you're often surprised by the number of tubers hidden below the surface, making it clear just how productive the plant has been all season. That's part of what makes Jerusalem artichokes so rewarding. Their appearance above ground is modest. Their harvest underground is anything but. Their resilience is equally impressive. They tolerate poor soil, intense sunshine, dry weather, and occasional neglect far better than many traditional vegetables. In fact, they often seem happiest when they're simply left alone. Once established, Jerusalem artichokes naturally become a permanent part of the garden. They return every spring, they gradually spread, and each year they often produce even larger harvests than before. Because even small pieces of tuber left behind can sprout into new plants, they renew themselves almost effortlessly. Some gardeners occasionally thin them to keep them under control, while others appreciate their ability to provide a dependable food source with almost no replanting. The tubers themselves are delicious and versatile. Their crisp texture and mild, slightly nutty flavor make them excellent for roasting, soups, stir-fries, salads, and many other recipes. Another major advantage is their natural storage ability. Rather than harvesting everything at once, you can simply leave the tubers in the ground and dig them whenever you need fresh vegetables. That makes Jerusalem artichokes feel less like a seasonal crop and more like a living pantry waiting beneath the soil. Resilient, productive, self-renewing, and incredibly easy to grow, they're one of the best long-term food crops any gardener can plant. 4. New Zealand spinach. New Zealand spinach completely redefines what gardeners can expect from leafy greens during the hottest months of the year. While traditional spinach often struggles once temperatures begin to rise, quickly bolting, turning bitter, and ending its season, New Zealand spinach does exactly the opposite. The hotter the weather becomes, the more vigorously it grows. This heat-loving plant flourishes in full sun, handles dry conditions with ease, and keeps producing fresh foliage long after most other leafy vegetables have disappeared from the garden. Instead of growing in tidy, upright rows, it spreads naturally across the ground, forming a dense mat of thick, succulent leaves that acts as a living mulch. That lush blanket of foliage offers several valuable benefits. It shades the soil, helps retain moisture, suppresses weeds, and protects the roots from excessive summer heat. While many leafy vegetables decline during long stretches of hot weather, New Zealand spinach continues growing without missing a beat, supplying tender leaves throughout the season. It's also one of the easiest greens to maintain. Once established, it tolerates poor soil, survives dry spells better than most leafy crops, and rarely requires frequent watering or fertilizing. Harvesting is simple and actually encourages even more production. By regularly pinching the growing tips or trimming young stems, the plant responds by branching out and producing fresh foliage. Every harvest stimulates new growth, allowing you to enjoy a continuous supply of greens for months instead of only a short harvest window. For gardeners who have struggled to keep spinach alive through summer, New Zealand spinach offers a completely different experience. Reliable, resilient, and incredibly productive, even in intense heat. 5. Sorrel. Sorrel may not be the flashiest plant in the garden, but it quietly proves its value year after year. Although it rarely steals the spotlight, it consistently rewards gardeners with dependable harvests and very little maintenance. Once established, sorrel begins producing fresh leaves early in the season and continues growing for months. Its smooth green foliage has a bright, lemony flavor that brings a refreshing tang to salads, soups, sauces, omelets, and countless other dishes. Its greatest strength, however, is its ability to keep producing when many other leafy vegetables begin to fail. As temperatures rise, many greens bolt, become tough, or lose their flavor. Sorrel simply keeps growing. maintaining both its tenderness and its distinctive taste throughout warm weather. Because it's a perennial, sorrel becomes stronger every year. Its expanding root system reaches deeper into the soil, improving its ability to find moisture and nutrients while making the plant increasingly resilient. It performs well in average soil, rarely needs constant watering, and handles changing weather conditions with ease. Another advantage is its incredibly long harvest season. Sorrel is often one of the very first edible plants to emerge in spring, providing fresh leaves weeks before many other vegetables are ready. Even after temperatures climb, it continues producing while many early crops have already finished. Harvesting couldn't be easier. Simply pick the outer leaves whenever you need them, leaving the center intact so the plant can continue producing fresh growth. Before long, new leaves replace the ones you've harvested, creating an ongoing cycle of production throughout the season. Over time, sorrel stops feeling like a seasonal crop and becomes a permanent part of the garden, always growing, always dependable, and always ready to provide another harvest. For gardeners looking for unique flavor, exceptional reliability, and minimal maintenance, sorrel is an outstanding perennial vegetable. 6. Perennial kale. Perennial kale offers everything gardeners appreciate about traditional kale, with one major improvement. It doesn't need to be replanted every year. Instead of completing its life cycle in a single season, perennial kale continues growing for years, providing a dependable supply of nutritious leaves with very little effort. As the plant matures, it develops into a large, shrubby specimen with sturdy stems and abundant foliage. Some varieties become surprisingly large, serving as both an attractive landscape feature and a highly productive food crop. One of its greatest strengths is its remarkable adaptability. Once established, perennial kale tolerates hot weather far better than many leafy vegetables and continues producing even when other greens begin to slow down. Dry conditions, changing weather, and occasional neglect rarely affect it. It simply keeps growing. Its continuous productivity is what truly sets it apart. There's no need to start seeds every spring. No need to replace worn-out plants. Simply harvest the leaves you need, and the plant naturally replaces them with fresh growth. This cycle continues season after season, making perennial kale one of the most efficient vegetables for gardeners interested in long-term food production. Maintenance is refreshingly simple. It grows well in ordinary soil, rarely requires frequent fertilizing, and only benefits from occasional pruning to encourage fresh shoots and maintain an attractive shape. Year after year, perennial kale quietly provides a dependable harvest while asking for almost nothing in return. For anyone interested in sustainable gardening, food security, or low-maintenance growing, it's far more than just another leafy vegetable. It's a long-term investment in a productive garden. 7. Lovage. Lovage is one of those plants that many gardeners overlook until they grow it for themselves. Once established, it quickly becomes one of the most useful and dependable plants in the entire garden. Its appearance often reminds people of celery thanks to its tall stems and lush green foliage. However, unlike celery, which can be demanding and sensitive, lovage is remarkably hardy and forgiving. As a true perennial, it returns every spring without needing to be replanted, growing larger and more productive with each passing year. Its strength comes from its deep, powerful root system. These roots reach far into the soil, allowing the plant to find moisture and nutrients even during extended hot, dry periods. While celery often requires rich soil and frequent watering, lovage continues growing happily with minimal care once established. Nearly every part of the plant can be used in the kitchen. The leaves add rich flavor to soups, stews, broths, and salads. The thick stems can be cooked much like celery, although their stronger flavor means only a small amount is needed. Even the seeds are harvested and used as an aromatic seasoning. Its flavor is often described as a more concentrated version of celery, bringing a deep, savory taste to a wide variety of recipes. One mature plant can supply more fresh herbs than most families could use throughout the season. Perhaps the greatest reason gardeners appreciate lovage is its consistency. Every spring it emerges on its own. It rarely needs fertilizer. It requires almost no special maintenance. And year after year, it quietly continues producing abundant harvests. For anyone looking for a perennial herb that's productive, resilient, and incredibly useful, lovage quickly becomes one of the most valuable plants in the garden. 8. Tree collards. Tree collards completely change the way people think about leafy vegetables. While most greens stay low to the ground and complete their life cycle within a single season, tree collards continue growing for years, gradually developing into tall, shrub-like plants with thick, sturdy stems. As they mature, they can reach impressive heights, looking more like small trees than ordinary vegetables. Their unusual growth habit offers several practical advantages. Older leaves are harvested or naturally fall away, while fresh leaves continuously develop at the top of the plant. This creates an ongoing cycle of growth that keeps the plant both productive and attractive throughout the year. Their upright structure also improves airflow around the foliage, reducing many common growing problems while making excellent use of vertical garden space. What truly makes tree collards remarkable, however, is their non-stop productivity. Instead of producing a single harvest and finishing for the season, they continue generating fresh leaves month after month. New foliage appears. Mature leaves are harvested. Fresh growth replaces what was picked. The cycle continues almost indefinitely. This allows gardeners to enjoy nutritious greens over an exceptionally long period from a single plant. The leaves are large, tender, and packed with nutrients, making them an excellent substitute for kale, collard greens, and many other leafy vegetables. Tree collards also handle summer heat far better than most greens. While many leafy vegetables bolt, become bitter, or stop producing altogether, these hardy plants continue growing steadily through hot weather. They're equally easy to care for. Rich soil isn't essential, frequent watering isn't necessary, and complicated maintenance routines simply aren't required. Occasional pruning is usually enough to encourage branching, improve shape, and increase production. Another major advantage is how easily tree collards can be propagated. Most varieties are grown from stem cuttings rather than seeds, making it simple to create new plants from a single healthy specimen. Over time, one plant can easily become an entire productive planting. That's one reason tree collards are so highly valued in permaculture systems, food forests, and sustainable gardens. As the years pass, they become much more than another vegetable. They become a permanent source of fresh food, a dependable producer, a living harvest that keeps giving back with remarkably little effort.